What up? It's your boy Wall Street, and I'm back with another free agency headline. The Minnesota Timberwolves are having their key bench player, Nickeil Alexander Walker, walk, no pun intended, and he is going to sign a new deal with the Atlanta HAWKS. So this deal for Nickeil is a 4-year deal, and it's going to have to be through a sign and trade, but it's a 4-year deal, $62 million, and I believe the sign and trade is going to involve the Timberwolves receiving a 2027 second-round pick from the Hawks and cash considerations. So it was kind of, likely, and it kind of clicked in my mind that Nickeil Alexander Walker is probably not going to be on the Timberwolves next season as soon as we saw that Naz Reid and Julius Randle had agreed to extensions. So it was going to be very tough for the Timberwolves to keep all three of these guys. I think I might have mentioned that previously in one of my other videos, but I was kind of under the impression that it was probably going to be Nickeil or Naz, but it does make sense that Nickeil is going to, be the one to kind of walk here, just because they have players that can come in and fill, the role at his position, right? You have Rob Dillingham, you have Terrence Shannon, you have a lot of these guys that are probably ready to step up after kind of sitting back on the bench last season and not really getting as much play. But Nickeil Alexander Walker this past season played all 82 games for the Timberwolves, 9.4 points per game, shot 38% from three and 44% from the field. He's a very solid player. He's one of those role players that comes in, does what he needs to do, and plays his role extremely well. Doesn't have an ego at all. He's a very, very, very good player. And frankly, I'm surprised they got such a great deal. I mean, to get $16 million a year for Nickeil Alexander Walker is pretty big price, but I mean, he is a young player. He's 26 years old. He's going to turn 27 before next season starts. He'll turn 27 in September. Fun fact, if you guys don't know, Nickeil Alexander Walker is actually the cousin of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and they faced off against each other in the Western Conference Finals, so that was pretty cool. The whole Alexander, bloodline seems to be having, great hoop potential, and they are just ballers. So the real thing, though, that I want to talk about here is, Atlanta is, I don't know if it's even quietly, but they're just having one of the best off seasons I've seen in a long time, very quickly. They have accumulated so many pieces so quickly, in the past couple of weeks, really in the past 2 weeks, maybe not even, where they got Kristaps Porzingis in a trade, right? They traded back in the draft from 13th to 23, and they still get Asa Newell, who was a lottery slated prospect in a lot of mock drafts, right? And by doing that, they also got the Pelicans unprotected pick in 2026, which is not only just the Pelicans pick, it's the more favorable of New Orleans and Milwaukee's pick. So if one of those teams really has a bad season, that pick is going to Atlanta. I mean, it's going to Atlanta regardless, but there's potential there that the New Orleans Pelicans could be really bad. They were, a bottom 5 team this past season. And, the Bucks, Dame's out. They might trade Giannis. Who knows? So the Hawks are, really rolling in it. And I think Trae Young's got to be super happy having Nickeil Alexander Walker, who's going to, fill a pretty big void for them, bring his all on defense, and also contribute offensively. I expect Nickeil Alexander Walker to have, more production, in terms of points per game, assists per game, all that once he gets to Atlanta. I also think if Kristaps Porzingis is healthy, that's a crazy pick and roll combo that you have with Trae Young and Porzingis, right? And Porzingis is one of those unique players in the league where he's super tall. He's 7'2" or 7'3", and he can shoot the ball from 30 feet out, right? Or he can play in the paint. Doesn't matter. He does a lot of things well, and he's pretty mobile considering that he's that big. But obviously, he had a weird situation going on towards the end of the season with, some strange virus or sickness. People were saying maybe he has some autoimmune issue. I'm not sure. I hope he's doing better now. But he was awful in the playoffs, and I don't really think it's much of his fault. I think his health just wasn't good at all. I don't even think he was really in playing condition. He tried to force it anyway. So, shout out Kristaps. I still got love for Kristaps. Especially because he was a wizard. Some years ago, and he's got a lot. He's got a lot of potential. He's got a lot left in the tank. I think. He's got a lot of potential to perform with this Hawks team. So, with the East being as wide open as it's going to be next season, with Tatum out, Halliburton out, Dame likely out for a significant portion of the season, if not the entire season. The Hawks have some room to really make some noise if they can stay healthy. So, I'm looking forward to seeing what's happening. As once we roll around to like October and seeing, how these teams are kind of slating up with each other once everything's been said and done in free agency, and there's more trades to happen. I'm sure there's probably gonna be more trades happening throughout the offseason. And Atlanta might be a part of that. They might get even better. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. What do you think about the Hawks? What do you think about this move? Nickeil Alexander Walker going to Atlanta, 4-year, $62 million deal in a sign and trade with Minnesota. I'm going to catch you guys later, man. Stay up, stay blessed, stay safe, stay humble, handle business, stand on business. Peace out.